Hey there, everybody and anybody, and welcome back to Night Call. So, in the last episode, we saw our passenger get killed. We were, almost killed ourselves. We were in a coma for 2 weeks, and then in the hospital for like a month or something like that before we could get back to our job. And then we took a couple of passengers on the way and talked to our detective in charge, because we're now an informant, I guess, because she's gonna say that we killed people if we don't help her. It was Detective Bassett. So we're gonna take a little bit of time to go through some of this stuff. So let's go through. Let's go through here first. The autopsy report for victim 3. Oh, we got a hold. Oh. Okay, I thought I would actually go through some of this stuff. Okay, so we've gone through all that. Okay. So, we got a bunch of people up here. So let's start with Salem Wadyan. This is in meters. Okay, so is that tall? He's shorter than her, so I'm going to assume, like, not super. So he's a well-known lawyer from Saint Ouen, defender on the Dassar case. Where's Dassar? No, just whatever. Defender of several molested kids in poor neighborhoods. Was a promising football player when he was 10. Message, picture of crime scene 1. Message on crime scene 1, justice. Okay. Okay, crime scene 1 got justice. Crime scene 2, you deserve this. Crime scene 3, time's up. Here, oh yeah, so his killer's height is less than 180 meters, or whatever that is. Okay. Oh, okay, I get that. By clicking the middle button, my mouse wheel, it's taking off, like, oh, this is unimportant. Okay. I'm assuming that one's really important. Okay. Hervé Griot is a homeless man with an unknown background. Worked for Charles Bougrain. Victim 2. I don't see him in there. In the 90s, got health issues after Richardin health scandal. Couple of arrests for breaking and entering. Okay, Paul-Marie Frageron, retired cop, joined the police in 1977. Divorced from a judge, born in the French Antilles. Moved to mainland France in 1976. Okay. This was heard in my taxi, which could be horseshit. This is the autopsy report. So I'm going to assume that the autopsy report is more correct. So I'm going to move this to the who gives a shit file. Victim 4 was a fantastic politician. Okay. Pierrot Bataz. Heights 170. Cop Paris. Dad was cop. Financial affairs. Died 2 years ago. Mom got health issues after Richteden health scandal. So these two have to do with the health scandal. Or, yeah, these two. Gay in a relationship, never disclosed his information at work. This guy, retired cop. Yeah, I already said that. Claudia Campos. Medical examiner in Paris. Escaped from Argentina when she was young. Lost her parents to the Argentinian junta, which is the process. Okay, I'm going to put the messages all over here. I like the way that this is doing it. It's because it's, you know, they're making it look, instead of, oh, just lined out, like the old school you pin on the board kind of thing. No sign of violence. Yeah, killer left message on chalk on first 3 crime scenes, which is these. Wish I could see them. Used in the 70s. He was a cop in the 70s. So, alright. Because that's something they all have in common, let's do that. So these are my list of suspects, I guess. Bullet in the neck. Death is execution style. Killer either knew them or researched them. 1 bullet in the neck. Execution style. Killer knew the victims. I don't want to think that's under them. I'll probably think that later. I'm like, it's harder. Fantastic. No signs of violence. Alright. Okay, so I think that's it. We're gonna go ahead and end the night. With a heavy hand, you wipe your tired face. You open the sofa bed and lay down. The events of the day run through your head. The streets, the passengers, their faces, their problems. You open one eye. Your back arches. You like to close your eyes and go back to sleep. You get up quickly, and a few minutes later, you're outside of your studio. Night 2. Okay, so let's see, who are we picking up? You're some sort of witness. You park a few streets away from the Argentinian embassy. You wait there for your contact. You sigh. It seems so odd to have a contact. So excessive. The guy is one of your regular poker buddies, a night watchman at the embassy. You get out of your taxi and walk towards the big metal gate. Clean lines, early 20th century maybe. Lots of wrought iron. The gate opens and someone moves towards you. They indicate you should follow them. The person's face is hidden by an oversized hoodie. Your heart starts beating faster. What if it was... follow him. You walk into a narrow covered passageway, probably the entrance to a parking garage. A man turns around and lights up a cigarette. The lighter lights up his face for a second. A young man with curly hair, pale skin. He looks young. Very young. That'll be 250 euros. Is it worth it? I got as much as I could, so yeah. You want information on Gorodisher? I got info on Gorodisher, and it'll cost you 250 euros. So, what'll it be? He raises his hand in front of his chest. His accent becomes stronger. No. It's 250 euros or nothing. Oh, no. Someone learns I fished around, they'll fire me on the spot. Fine. I have like no money now. For that price, I hope the intel is good. I pay. Listen up, because I'm not going to say it twice. Gorodisher is definitely a colonel from the junta. One of the few who wasn't arrested and put on trial. He's responsible for torturing dozens of political opponents. He tortured and killed them. You know, we don't like him much here. But the rich Argentinians in Paris love him. They really respect him. Respected him. The difference doesn't seem important to him. Yeah, if it makes you happy. He looks back at you. There's one last thing. I read in the newspaper that the killer wrote a message in chalk. Time's up. There's a slogan at the end of junta. A sort of watchword from the opponents. It was time for them to go. Get it? You nod. A second later, you're back in your taxi, with a hole in your wallet, but with new information on one of the victims. If you follow this lead, maybe your investigation will move forward. Start the car and get back to your shift. Alright. Sure. Faubourg Saint-Honoré. Next passenger getting in your cab has a surprisingly calming presence. He gently closes the door and gives you an address on the other side of the city. You start driving. You sense your passenger wants to talk about the killer. It's simple. Since the first murder, everyone thinks they know something. Everyone thinks they saw something. And this passenger is no exception. Rather chilly out, isn't it? I know, he's the only person I'm going to do a French accent with. His voice is warm and deep. Finally, you notice his white collar. I was going to say, isn't he a priest? You're not too cold? Nah, I'm alright. You've got a lot of grit to want to drive in this kind of weather. My French accent is awful. The holy water in font froze today. We had to pour boiling water over it to break the ice. He pauses for a moment. He looks at the car, the seats, the windows. It's funny. I never made the connection before today, but the taxi is kind of like a confessional. A small box removed from the world, where two people can converse without the risk of being interrupted. He waits. You look at him in the rearview mirror. Do people blabber on about their lives? I smile. His face lights up. Why yes, I'm doing exactly what my parishioners do when they come for confession. They start with small talk to whether their grandson, granddaughter, niece, their dog. Then they finally get around to what really matters. They share lies, trickery, stinginess. He sighs. I've been listening to people's confessions for over 15 years, and it's funny. But no one has ever told me about anything that's really serious. He's waiting to see how you react. Say nothing. It's just that the people I hear in confession have so much to say. Of course, we all have things we are ashamed of. Freud clearly understood the importance of the confession booth. He made it into something more modern, more attractive, and less punitive. He pauses. Before going to seminary, I never doubted my calling, but since... He leans in closer. His voice is now lower and softer. Since then, I have a clearer understanding of the world. I can connect religions, schools of thought, ideas. And living in a country that is less and less religious is not hard to start wondering. Your passenger makes a sound like a cork popping from a wine bottle. I have something I want to tell you. It doesn't matter to me that the people stop believing or believe in something else. Why our faith more than another? He struggles to find his words. What bothers me is that I'm not bothered by it. It's like I've already accepted it. He looks outside. Is there such a thing as driver-passenger confidentiality? He pauses, then bursts out laughing. I'm kidding, but I do wonder what people talk to you about. How would you feel about swapping stories? Sure. Really? I didn't think. He smiles. Nothing leaves this car, right? You nod. Who first? It'll be me. That's not such a nice story. It's a story that haunts you. You think about it regularly. And not only because of everything that followed. The night of the terrorist attacks, the other drivers and I were helping people get home. We drove around, waved to people to get in, telling them it was okay, that everything was going to be alright. It was chaos. They all wanted to get home to their loved ones who weren't answering their phones. The slightest odd noise made them jump. Anyway, a woman and her husband got in the car. She wore a headscarf. He was glued to his phone. They gave me an address and we drove toward Rue de Rivoli. The radio was announcing the first estimation to the number of deaths. He started crying. She looked at me, stared at me in the rearview mirror like she wanted to read my mind. We'd almost arrived when he told her to take her scarf off, that it would be easier for everyone that way. She refused. He raised his voice. She continued to stare at me in the mirror. Car speeds in front of you, stop talking. How reckless. You glance at the meter, the green light, your rearview mirror. In the back seat, your passenger leans slightly forward. And what did you do? I nodded, insinuating that she was right, that it would all come down to that. She kept her headscarf on. I pulled over in front of the building. She got out first, walked towards the building without waiting for him. He paid me, lowered his eyes. He takes a second to process the story. He holds your gaze, his hands clasped. Impressive, very impressive. You're saying we should remain proud of and faithful to our convictions. You nod. Your passenger smiles, but something's not quite right, as if the smile were forced. My turn now, then, I suppose. There was this old man whose wife died very young. Since she was an avid churchgoer, he continued to come every Sunday morning. He clarifies. You should know that it's rare to see a man alone at church. There are couples, lots of old ladies, mothers, young men, women. Church is not very manly, unfortunately. But anyway, he came. One day he asked me to take his confession. We sat down, a long moment of silence went by. I usually let him get acclimated to the muffled sounds coming from outside the booth, especially if it's their first time. And there he tells me that he's in love with someone, but doesn't dare betray his deceased wife. She was everything to him, you see, his sun, his oxygen. For the last 20 years he has been suffocating, incapable of living alone. He wondered if it was a sin, or wrong if he might upset his wife up in heaven. He pauses for a minute to let the smile spread across his face. I managed to find the right words, but he still wasn't sure, and said he'd come back to talk to me again. He stops. He died that night in his sleep. I think of him often. We don't always hear our calling. We avoid our own destiny. His expression freezes. He hesitates, opens his mouth, stops himself, then finally. You are right. Our stories are similar, complementary. Thank you for sharing it with me. You've almost reached his destination. You notice your passenger's been keeping an eye on the dashboard clock. You park in front of the address he gave you and cut the motor. Passenger pays his fare. It suddenly seems lighter, more at ease. Good luck. Gets out of the taxi and disappears into a nearby building. Cool. Let's go check out this gangster right here. The plane is Saint-Denis. Sure, I think there's a thing up there. Your passenger climbs into the cab and slams the door shut behind him. Good evening. Plane Saint-Denis, please. Stops short, visibly sizing you up. You know where it is? You nod, yes. Avenue des Manguis Généraux. So, you know the street? Yeah, sure. He looks at you intently. You know all the streets of Paris? His question drips with disbelief. He knows kind well, sort of who'd refer to you as the Arab and not bat an eyelid. Go there all the time. They shoot TV shows there. Always a lot of fares. It's his turn to nod, with a protruding lower lip. Well then, let's go. You start the cab. Client stares out the window as if hypnotized. You watch him in the rearview mirror. His face is similar to you. His accent too, though you'd never be able to place it. Type of some rural region, central France perhaps, or whatever it is that I gave him. You take another look. That's it, you've got it. He was a contestant on one of those reality shows where farmers meet women. You'd see him on that show a few weeks before. You'd watched it from your hospital bed with a distracted eye. But something about it had bothered you. The show was a masquerade of life of the country, it seemed, from a very Parisian and cynical perspective. Full of scorn, contempt. Okay then, you figured out who I am? His remark and his accent bring you back to the present. Sorry. You recognize me, right? So you can make fun of me now? Make fun of you? He shrugs. Yeah, like all those other people do out there on that their Tweety thing. Tweety. Takes you a second to realize he's talking about social media. Or Twitter. You could say Twitter, I think. Make fun of you? Yeah, well, go on and have a good laugh. It's free, right? Why shouldn't you? Have a good laugh at my expense? That's all I'm good for, right? His eye meets yours, his voice faltering. He sighs heavily and shakes his shoulders. He goes on staring at you for a while and then seems to calm down. Sorry. Shakes his head, obviously moved. His shell is starting to crack. It's a living hell. Imagine what I'm going through. It's a nightmare. 3 months ago, I was a contestant on that stupid show, Fields of Love. Well, I said yes because my wife's been dead for 25 years. Been all alone ever since. Just me and some cows and udders. He stops and shrugs. The show was aired like a month ago. At first, things were fine. Friends called, we had a good laugh and all. And then I tried to find out. Then I found out the internet is laughing at me too. There are those things. I can't remember what they're called. Moms, mams, mims. You know, those pictures that move all by themselves on the damn internet. You have no idea what he's talking about. So I made myself a Tweety account to go and see what they're saying about me. Calling me a virgin and a Nazi that I screw my cows too? He looks away, as if someone else had spoken the words. They practically die laughing at a farmer who... He doesn't want to finish the sentence. So yesterday I said I'd had it. Called my cousin to keep an eye on my farm and I left for Paris. I'm on my way to see those TV jokers right now. 6 months ago, they said if there was any problem whatsoever, they'd take care of it. Well, there is a problem. His anger has subsided somewhat. His face is returning to its normal color. What's your plan? Hell yes, I have a plan. I'm gonna show up at their office and raise Cain until they listen to me. He gives you an energetic nod of the head. And believe me, they're going to listen. I may be a plain old farmer, but nobody's gonna disrespect me. Squares his shoulders as if to fend off the attacks. Forget it. His eyes half closed, he practically growls the words. There's a palpable air of sadness about him. At first, I told them I didn't want to be in their stupid old show. It wasn't for me. But they insisted. They showed me pictures of the women. Lowers his eyes. And then, well, I said yes. Should never have said yes. You pull the address he gave you. The studio gates are still closed. You park the cab and cut the engine. Is it closed? You nod yes. Doesn't open until 6. You point to the sign near the gates. He sighs. But there'll be hardly anybody here before 9 or 10 o'clock. I don't care, I'll wait. He rummages through his pockets and pulls out a wallet. What are you gonna ask them? I want him to apologize on TV during the show in front of everyone. To talk about all the things they changed, all the bits of sentences they cut up and put back together. He fixes his gaze on you, his eyes narrow. You know, I'm not racist. His voice is low and raspy. Don't believe the show. I didn't mean what I said, and I didn't really say that stuff either. They always do that. He nods. Yeah, well, the media, they distort everything. They change things. Things are more, more... He searches for the right word. It's no use. His hands are shaking. Oh, well. He fixes his gaze on you, visibly moved. I'm not very good at this. He chokes up, gesturing with a hand to make it all disappear. When he starts up again, he's on the verge of tears. Anyhow, I'll just wait here until it opens. Passenger pays fare and exits cab. You watch him for a minute as he starts his vigil in front of the gates. You notice a newspaper in the back seat. Your last passenger must have left it behind. Or the one before. You grab it and put it away. Could come in handy. Then you start the cab, back to the grind. Oh, read the newspaper. You pull a newspaper out of your glove compartment and start leafing through it. Eventually, something grabs your eye. It's a photo of an important French athlete, well-known tennis player. He's just been arrested in Switzerland for embezzling millions of euros in image reproduction rights. You sigh. You turn the page and stop. You've read about a third of the newspaper. You stop reading and go back a few pages. You thought you saw something. Badly framed photo and a terse article inform you that a minister is stepping down for personal reasons. She'll be replaced by her right-hand man, who also happens to be her husband. Her face is not at all familiar. You don't think you've ever seen her before. You only have a third left to read. As soon as you get to the page, you stop. Your instinct tells you to look at. It's a rather positive critique of a bar called Solil's. It's probably Solis. You make a note of the information with interest. In your line of work, that kind of thing can always come in handy. You shut the paper. It'll end up in the trash tonight. If you remember, it's there. Otherwise, you'll spend the rest of its days in your glove compartment. Ooh. Alright, dude, let's go to you then. I don't need to listen to the radio. Be good. Towns! Alright. You immediately recognize this next passenger getting in your taxi. You never watch television, rarely listen to the radio, you don't read the newspaper, and yet you know Francois de la Nery's face. Polemicist, novelist, columnist, politician too, you think. Your passenger distractedly gives you his address. You start driving. He appears to be out of breath. His voice and hands are shaking. Unbelievable. He separates each syllable as if going to protect him from the violence around him. Unbelievable. Is everything okay? Can you even begin to fathom what a public danger this represents? What? A mere 5 minutes ago, I wanted to cross the street. Suddenly, slicing through the darkness and deafening silence came an electric car. Its asphalt-coated tires drove right over the tip of my loafer. It's shot, I can tell. The leather is compressed and streaked with mud and soot. It's a travesty. A travesty. He begins writing furiously. You can check. You catch a few words from time to time. What for? The environment? Create more road deaths? Save polar bears? He leaves you hanging for a second before grinning. Another badly thought-out stunt from the snowflake hipster lobby. Quinoa. Electric planes that will crash into Charles de Gaulle Airport without a sound. You hear a throaty laugh. The Earth, safe, intact, clean, but at what cost? No way, Jose. Our planet produces oil, so we must use it. It would be unnatural not to. God, I already hate this guy. Unnatural indeed. He chuckles crudely. Rise up in defense of the sweet purr of the convertible, just as they would the hoot of the owl in danger of extinction in the lush forests of the Champagne region. Ah, murderer, assassin! The ferocious silence made up to oppress us. Puts down his notebook. A wolfish grin spreads across his face. Yes, magnificent editorial, just magnificent. What about you? Would you want to have a silent car? Let's go with no, so we'll talk to me more. See now, see! I'm not the least bit surprised. And if taxi drivers don't like them, then it's something that is definitely wrong with this world. Seriously, though, I'm being straight with you. No bells and whistles. It's God's honest truth. A city without noise is not a city. Mark my words. You drive in silence for a few minutes. In the back seat, the pulmacist is fuming, and you catch occasional snippets of nonsense. Taxi's almost reached your passenger's place. It's just here. You pull up in front of his address, an old building, freshly renovated. On the top floor, bay windows shine faintly in the darkness as the Eiffel Tower spotlight washes over them. Your passenger sighs. Oh, the devils, the fools! It's the middle of the night and they're still having the time of their lives. He opens the window on his side and screams at the packed cafe. The heated patio is filled with young people, well dressed and quite drunk. When will you cease this madness? Then he turns to you, whisper as if in secret. Every night, they make one hell of a racket. Impossible to get a wink of sleep. Pays gets out of the cars in the front of the bar in 3 angry leaps. You can hear his voice from far away, a few words and some outdated swearing with a whiff of senility. You stop listening and drive off. Shitty tip. Alright, let's see what this dude's up to. Senwen. Missed the last train. Pull up to the sidewalk to pick up the passenger who ordered a cab. You can just make him out, surrounded by 5 or 6 cops. An all too familiar scene. Every so often, the low, ominous tones of an officer's voice makes it to your ear. Circle of cops breaks up. You see your passenger. He heads over to the cab and gets in. He slams the door and lets rip. Motherfucking cops! I don't know why. Let's just look at him. He gives you his address and you start the car. Passenger stares out the window at the passing road as if to calm himself. Take a quick look in the rearview mirror. Everything alright? Yeah, sure. They're afraid to lay a finger on us nowadays. Don't want to get blown up. An ironic half smile appears on his face, then immediately disappears. He knows a bad joke when he hears one. What a fucking pain in the ass. Can't go out without getting screwed by each and every one of those son of a bitches. If you're not wearing a goddamn beret, if you happen to be wearing sweatpants, then yeah, right, you're a fucking hood. He smiles wryly and then raises his voice an octave. Your papers, please. He sighs, his voice back to normal. Yeah, sure. Shove your aunt's cock up your friggin' ass, buddy. Always the same old thing, isn't it? Passenger looks at you and lets out a bitter laugh. You can say that again. Even the Arabs treat us like shit when they're wearing a uniform. A slow smile spreads across his face. And you know what's worse? Pulls a paperback out of his jacket pocket. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. They wouldn't believe it was my book. He returns it to his pocket right away. For a second you wonder if you imagined it. The first thing they asked me is where I had stolen it. You know, like there was no way I could own a book. Then the bastards took the book and flipped through it, every single page, to make sure I wasn't hiding nothing, like hash or some shit. He flinches. Something in his features breaks. A crack has appeared. He's trying not to show it. But you see what's going on, you can't help it. The inner struggle, the humiliation, the sense of shame. It's just a book. Do you like it? He looks up. Yeah, it's kind of like a revenge story. Like all the Hollywood movies we download so we don't have to pay for a ticket. Except that it takes place 200 years ago. And yeah, it's good. It really sucks when something happens to the hero guy. And he spends the whole book planning his revenge, big time. Guy's pretty messed up. Catches your eye in the rearview mirror. You realize he's not all worked up anymore. It's my girlfriend who gave it to me. What else did she recommend? Well, believe me, man, it was pretty rough at first. First, she got me to read this book, Pride and something or other, some English book. Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, that's it. You read it too? I saw the movie a long time ago. Pause. They made a movie? Shit, I should have watched it. I didn't get through the whole thing, but she didn't mind. After, she got me to read something by Balzac. And after the Count of Monte Cristo, she really wants me to read this book. He rolls his eyes. By some Belgian woman, I think. You shrug. Who my girlfriend says wrote a book about this Roman emperor and his boyfriend, and that it's really amazing. He laughs to himself. I better not get caught by the cops with that one in my pocket. Or by my friends, for that matter. He looks up, his eyes shining. She forced me a little, and then when I realized that Monte Cristo, he's one of us. I mean, his story, it's a lot like what goes on today. But I introduced her to new stuff too. There are these texts, rap lyrics that she really likes. You should see her putting on a show and all, but the truth is, she actually likes it. It's the same thing with reading, right? I mean, it has to be properly explained to me. I had to want to try it. And that was it, man. I was on my way. He looks down. Something seems to be bothering him. The only thing is, he hesitates. My girlfriend, she's a co-op. Pretty weird, huh? She's 37, she gets me to read books for rich people, and she works for the local police. He gestures vaguely towards someplace behind him. I was just at her place now. Man, she is one hell of a woman. She drives me crazy, she's so... He doesn't finish the sentence. You pull up the address given by your fare. He lets out a sigh. You know, man, I don't know why the hell I just told you all that. No worries. It must be a real bummer, all these guys telling you their life stories. Passenger passes you the money for the ride. I have to go. I'm punching early tomorrow. Pauses, eyeing the time on the radio's LCD display. Or later on, I should say. A moment later, he vanishes into the night. What a shitty tip. I'm gonna try to stick around here in case I can get this spot, or somebody wants to go there. Is this the same one I was with before? The words I can sense them, they're calling me. Your next passenger immediately raises her hand. Drive. I don't care where, I just need you to drive. You turn the key in the ignition. Yes, there, good. Keep going this way. Her deep voice, full voice, makes you slightly uncomfortable. With closed eyes, she seems like she's in a place far from the back seat of your taxi. When she starts speaking, there's an odd whistle in her voice, like she has a hole in one of her teeth. Slow down. Frail or fragile? A bit surprised, you look back at her in the mirror. Answer me. Frail or fragile? I'm not sure. Don't think about it. Just say the first one that comes to mind. Frail or fragile? Fragile. Odd. I wouldn't have thought that of you. After all, frailty implies more to humans than to objects. Whistle in her voice cracks for a second. Both words actually have the same root. A smile spreads across her face. 2 words, 2 units. And life went on, and words mixed once again. She pauses. You okay? She doesn't hear your question because she starts to scream. Go down the street and stop! You speed up the quiet street. The cold weather has driven away all the passerby. There, yes! Good. I've got it. She cries out with joy and resonates in the cab. I've got it! Look, the words are right there. They're wandering past us like sheep, like... She explodes with laughter. What words? She immediately stops laughing. She silences you with a wave of her hand. Now, I must write. She closes her eyes, her fingers stroke imaginary upholstery. The frail are forced into battle. Together they come out. Together come the children, a son and a daughter, standing tall to salute. They will cry, oh yes, they will cry. The eaglets fly behind. The frail will say. Your passenger freezes. When she opens her eyes again, she stares at you. What happens when you sleep? She's waiting for your answer. I sleep. She tilts her head to the side just a bit. No, that's a lie and you know it. What happens when you drive? I work. Exactly, you give your time to others. She laughs strangely, almost a snicker, as her eyelids droop. And the son will say, frail father, I want you to come back to life. And the daughter will say, frail father, I want you to come back a winner. The whistle in her voice grates on your ears. The father responds, you must choose. As the eaglet lands upon his shoulder, together they fly off. And thus all began. Fragile, frail, 2 paths that can't be fooled. The son and daughter will grow up, though not at the same pace. When, early one morning, 20 years later, they'll wake up. They wake to the sound of a bugle. The sound will be beaten, churned, and clubbed, until... She stops, her eyes slowly open. Until the sun... No! Stop the car! You follow orders and brake hard. The eaglet... She shakes her head. The words... Your passenger pinches her face. Oh no! I can feel the words getting away from me! Ah! She opens the door and runs off down the street. By the time you turn around, she vanished. You sit there a moment, something hits your windshield. You get out of the car, lean towards the wipers, and discover a small white seashell. You look around, no one. You hurry back to the driver's seat and drive away. Wow, she just fucking took off, huh? I don't know how much... Oh, is that night over? Looks like there's not much left. Run ground. Okay, well, okay. have met Christoph. You confessed. Oof. I met Denis. Alright. Interesting how the night goes. At the front of your front door, at the foot of your front door, just behind a drain pipe, you notice an envelope. It's thick and heavy. You just make out your name written in thick black marker on the front. Your real name. You take a deep breath and just go inside. In the envelope, you find more information just as Bissett promised. You lay them on the table. You take a few minutes to update your board with your new clues. You're suddenly overcome with the desire to sleep. You close your eyes, press your fingers to your eyelids and let out a yawn. Crack your knuckles and get to work. Alright, so... picture a crime of the crime scene. Police report 1. I don't have enough time for the rest of these. Alright. So, victim 1 is a great football coach. Okay. Colonel of the Junta, the process. Known to have tortured. That's victim 1. How can we have no sign of violence, yet spent bullet case? Which one's victim 4? Let me know in the comments if you start to see a pattern starting to go together or anything like that. I'll see if I can make that same connection as you. Alright, I think we're going to end the night. And with that, we are gonna go ahead and finish episode 2 of Night Call. If you guys are enjoying this so far, if you are, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Later.